And now coming to introduce our final speaker for the day is the 2011 Conservative Activist of the Year for the state of Wisconsin and the Program Officer of Chapter Services at the Young Americas Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kate Cortez and soon to be released, Sophia Cortez.
It is my great honor and privilege to introduce our next speaker this evening, Senator Rick Santorum. Former candidate for the Republican nomination for President of the United States in 2012, he became known as the voice for conservatives whose voice wasn't being represented. Serving in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1991 to 1995 and the U.S. Senate from 1995 to 2007, Senator Santorum fought to maintain fiscal sanity in Washington, fighting for a balanced budget and a line item veto. His record of one of the most conservative senators in Pennsylvania's history has prompted a Washington Post reporter to write that, quote, Santorum was a Tea Party kind of guy before there was a Tea Party. In office, Senator Santorum was also author and floor manager of the landmark Welfare Reform Act, which passed in 1996, and served 8 years on the Senate Armed Services Committee, among many other accomplishments. But of all his successes, he is most proud of his role as a husband and father. Of particular value to myself as an expectant mom, and many others across the country, Senator Santorum wrote and championed legislation that outlawed the heinous procedure known as partial birth abortion. He has always been a voice for the voiceless. And reliably defends truth, no matter what the consequences. But before Senator Santorum takes the stage, please enjoy a 2-minute trailer of his upcoming film, The Christmas Candle.
Might I offer you some assistance?
Where are you headed?
I'm headed to London by way of Gladbury. It's the Christmas season. The whole town's in a fuss.
Is it really so bad?
It is, especially this Christmas with the new minister, high and mighty from London.
Reverend High and Mighty at your service.
Welcome to Gladbury, home of the Christmas candle.
Forgive my ignorance, but what is this Christmas candle?
The Christmas candle's no different than old wives' tales or your Bible stories.
Somebody's miracle is in this basket, and we won't let it go to waste.
I'm praying for a husband by Easter.
All their hopes wrapped up in one candle.
It's high time that Gladbury see the light. You may have one candle to give, but I hope to give everyone a little light this Christmas.
Electricity in the church. Now this I have to see.
What is this light? Is it signs and wonders, angels and miracles? Of course not. Today marks the dawning of a new age. I'm not the miracle man that you remember.
Your doubts don't trouble me, Reverend. On the contrary, they inspire my faith.
Gentle folks of Gladbury, welcome to this very special night.
The love I shared, the hope I had. Some things, they cannot be restored.
I do hope you're wrong.
I think you should stay, just until Christmas. People need hope, and you can give it to them.
You really do want to help these people, don't you?
Of course I do.
I know just the person to give the candle to this year.
What's happening?
A miracle is happening.
It'll be a happy Christmas after all.
A true patriot, firm believer in the American dream, and champion of conservative principles, please welcome Senator Rick Santorum.
Oh, there is hope for our nation again. Maybe the first time since we have run
Thank you.
There will be justice for the unborn. Factories back on our shores where
Thank you. The clock's running. Thank you.
Yes, I believe.
Thank you very much, Kate and Sophia, for introducing me here. And did you like the trailer? I'm very, very excited in the role that I have as CEO of Echo Light Studios to have the opportunity to bring that kind of quality entertainment into a very, very dark world of movies in America today. And I just want to remind you, think about this. This is a movie, as you can see. It's a Christmas movie, The Christmas Candle. It's a movie about the miracle that happens at Christmas. Not a miracle candle. Yes, a miracle candle. But what that miracle candle stands for. The real, true miracle of Christmas. And you think about it, though. Think of any movie in the last 40 years that's a Christmas movie that came to the theaters that had anything to do with the birth of Jesus other than a nativity movie. But any movie that talked about the real meaning of Christmas that applied to the world today. The answer is there isn't any. Think about that. Christmas after Christmas, Hollywood gives us fare that either has nothing to do with Christmas, or if it's a Christmas movie, about not what Christmas is about. You want to know why you hear all these, the polls say this. You know, the country's moving this way. Aristotle said, give me the storytellers, and I will control the country in a generation. Ladies and gentlemen, the storytellers in America today are telling you a very different story than what was told by your great-grandparents and the generations before, who used to be the storytellers in America. But now the storyteller is that screen. Those screens that try to move very subtly sometimes really wonderful movies, but subtly try to shift your points of view on little issues here and there, or throw in gratuitous this or gratuitous that. Why do they do that? Because they know that you'll go see the same movies as everybody else will see because they're quality, they're well made, but they slip those little things in order to move the American public in your direction. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to start being storytellers too. We have to start getting better and understanding where the American public is today and what we need to do as believers in American first principles, as believers in the Judeo-Christian ethic. We have to do a better job in telling our story. There's a lot of talk here in Washington, D.C. You probably heard it when you came here, and certainly before, about how conservatives and Republicans have to walk away from certain issues if we want to be successful or not. We have to change on some of these issues because the polls suggest that they're not popular anymore. I don't know about you, but as a leader, I'm not here to follow the polls. I'm here to shape the polls. How do we shape the polls? Obviously, I've gotten involved with Echo Light Studios in the movies. And this movie comes out on November 22nd. There's a sneak peek little mini movie that is going to be available at 7 o'clock tonight if anybody wants to come and see it. But that's just one front. People said, are you getting out of politics? You know, why is a politician involved in Hollywood? My response to that is that if liberal actors and producers can get involved in politics, then conservative politicians can get involved in Hollywood. And so can you. We're actually asking for folks to be theater captains all over this country to bring that movie. A Christmas movie at Christmas time about the real meaning of Christmas. What a marvelous thing, huh? But it's not enough. It's not enough just to do the popular culture. We have to do a better job in politics, whether we like it or not. Our children, and increasingly us, are getting our information through these screens. And how do they get that information? How do they get us to change our moral code, to erode what we've been taught? Through stories. Now, some would say, wait a minute, you're dumbing down, you're not standing up there and giving him the cold, hard facts. Well, I would remind you that 83% of the Bible is stories. Did Jesus back away from the truth by telling a story? No, but he communicated to people much more effectively. How many talking points and statistics do you remember from the last Heritage paper you read? How many lines can you remember from that movie you saw? Stories, the narrative sticks in our mind, and increasingly that's how particularly younger Americans learn. If you were to turn on C-SPAN 2, I was just over at Fox doing a show, and I happened to be watching C-SPAN 2, and it was just almost incredible. One of the Republican senators was up there, and right next to them was a chart, and it was a pie chart. Right after that was a line graph. Now, I guarantee you, if you waited till the other side had their chance to speak, they would have charts up too, but it would be pictures. And they would be telling stories. We try to tell people why we're right. They tell people that they understand, they relate, and they care. Now you say, well, that's softening it. No, it's not. It's meeting people where they are. And that's what we have to do. We have to be better at meeting people where they are and telling stories so people can understand that what we believe in is true and right. Because we were at a critical time in American history. You probably heard that 100,000 times. But it is absolutely true. What's going on in Washington, D.C. right now? People say, oh, it's just partisan squabbling. Hogwash. These are fundamental differences that are being played out right now about the role of government in our lives. I always try to go back and say, what is this really about? I talked about this during my campaign in 2012, the one that everyone says, oh, all he did was talk about social issues. No, what I did was talk about founding principles. And that's what got people's ears. I talked about the founding principles on which America is based and is different than any other country in the history of the world. What makes America different? What makes America different than, well, my grandfather came to this country. He could have gone to France and spent 50 years in France. After 50 years, would he have been a Frenchman? No. But the day he came to America, because he wanted to accept what America stood for, he became an American. You see, America isn't an ethnicity, it's not a race. It's a set of ideals and values. And so when President Obama gets up and says he wants to transform America, understand what he means. He means he wants to take the very founding principles of our country, found in the Declaration and the Constitution, and he wants to transform them into something different. What we don't do is explain to the American public what that is. What makes America different? I know a lot of folks, Tea Party folks, are very happy to stand up, and I'm glad they did, and reintroduce the Constitution to the American public discourse. And that's a great thing. But the Constitution without the Declaration can be a very dangerous document. Lots of folks have copied our Constitution. Nobody has copied our Declaration. We are the only country in the history of the world that says that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their with certain inalienable rights. You want to know what makes America different than any other country? It's because America, we believe that our rights come from God, not from the government. We are descendants of the American Revolution, but there are people in America today who do not want to be those descendants anymore. They see that line of ancestry as corrupt, bigoted, racist. Go on down the list of the left indictments against America. They see a very different revolution that occurred at roughly the same time of the American Revolution. And that was the French Revolution. The French Revolution was based on equality, liberty, and fraternity, not paternity. They were based on rights coming from the people, your brothers, not from God. It was an anti-clerical, anti-God revolution. They burned churches. They killed clergy. And they established a secular government that turned into mob rule and then an emperor who conquered Europe and institutionalized the French revolutionary statist secular rule in Europe. That is who they want us to be. And you see it. You see it in the things they do even now. They're subtle, they're little, they don't even hit on most people's radar screens. But look at Obamacare and the conscience mandate. And you could say, well, all they're trying to do is provide contraception and abortifacients for people who should have access to them. Oh, really? Oh, really? Is that all they're trying to do? Well, let's take them at their word. That's all they're trying to do. Okay. What would be the easiest way to make sure that everybody who wants those pills can have them for free and have complete access to them? Give them away. Give them away at pharmacies. Give them away at supermarkets. Give them away in vending machines. If you want them to be ubiquitous, simply pay for them and give them away. But that's not what they did. What they did was say to each and every one of you whose conscience is violated by it, we will make you do what we tell you to do. They will force you to use your money. They don't subscribe to the concept of freedom of religion. No, the word they use more often now, and they actually do use these words, freedom of worship. Now, to the untrained eye, freedom of worship, freedom of religion sound like the same thing, but they are not. You see, freedom of worship means if you want to go to your church and look at the Obamacare mandate. If you're in the church itself, okay, you don't have to do this. But once you walk out of the church, even if it's next door to a ministry, you're mine. You will do what the state tells you to do, not what your conscience does. This is a descendant of the French Revolution. This is the America they want to transform us to. Go look at Europe, which is dying. 1 in 4 Western European women have children. 1 out of 4. Every generation, Europe is cut in half in its population because for every 2 people, they're having 1 child. This is the future that they see because, of course, declining population is a good thing. We're not harming Mother Earth. Don't try to tell me they don't have a religion. It's just not the religion that most Americans believe in. But it's every bit of religion. That's why they're trying to silence you. Because their secular religion is okay, but yours is not. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here at Value Voters because ultimately, what's at stake in America is the issues you are here to defend and make sure that they're heard up on Capitol Hill. All of these economic issues, they're vital. But the foundation of this country is the dignity of every human life because they are a creation of a loving God. And when we lose that, then it's open season on all of us. The government can do whatever it wants. I tell all of these economic conservatives, I say, you guys aren't thinking through this very clearly. You're not thinking through the consequences of throwing overboard all of these unpopular social issues. You're not thinking through the consequence of the breakdown of the family and the tremendous increase in government spending that comes in every neighborhood and every family where the family is broken. Government can't be limited if families are disintegrating. So I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for being here and standing for the core values of our country, for the Declaration of Independence, for the vision that our founders had of strong communities based on strong families and limited government. Why? Because we didn't need big government. Government gets bigger as things around us start to crumble. And we look for government to help. I'm not suggesting that Barack Obama wants to see the economy continue to falter. But I said from day one that his role model as president was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And remember, Roosevelt kept getting elected, reelected in the midst of the Depression. In his second term, unemployment went up to 25%. He kept getting elected. Why? Because people are afraid. When things are unstable, people get afraid. And the storytellers come out and say, you can trust the government to provide that support for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are engaged in the battle for the heart and soul of America. And we need to be better and smarter about how we communicate our message. Do not back away 1 inch from what we believe in. Not 1 inch, because all we're doing is standing up for the values that made this country the greatest country in the history of the world. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Why can't we go out and produce great art, tell stories, and communicate with people? Why are we always on the defense? Look at us in the popular culture. Conservatives, all we do is curse the darkness and try to protect our families from all the bad stuff thrown at them. Why are we doing that? We have the truth. Why are we playing defense? I don't want to hear anybody here apologize for standing up for the truth. Apologize for standing up for the dignity of life, the sanctity of marriage, the centrality of the family. See, the problem we've had is we've nominated candidates, far too many, who say they believe those things, but they don't really talk about them, do they? I remember I went to a breakfast in New York when I was thinking of running for president, something that comes to mind every now and then, even today. And I was with a group of very wealthy people in New York, the big dogs, with the B, not the M. And they asked me question after question. They had already interviewed everybody else. I was sort of the last guy they brought in. And they started asking me all these questions about abortion and marriage and all these things. And finally I said, wait a minute. I said, did you ask all these other folks who came up here the same questions? Silence. Then finally someone said, no. I said, why not? And they said, well, because of your record. I said, wait a minute. The folks that are running for president have the same positions on these issues that I do. Everyone has the exact same position. At least they say they do. I said, why are you questioning me? The guy leaned forward and said, because we know you mean it. Folks, thank you. We will start winning elections when we nominate people that the public sees are authentic. They see that they mean it. When you're electing a leader, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone they trust, not someone spouting things that they don't believe. Don't be afraid to stand up and fight for the core American principles. Join me at Patriot Voices. Come on November 22nd and see the Christmas candle. We will take back this country and we will win. Thank you and God bless you.